Welcome back, fantasy managers. This is Devo1089. This is Tom, coming from Brooklyn, New York. Fortunately for all of our viewers today, we have Bigo1 Nick, our Frenchman in London. How you doing, Nick?
Yeah, doing fine, Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Oh, pleasure. It was good to see you at the France match this summer. Got to see them beat Iceland, and then I hear that you went to the final as well.
Yeah, that was less exciting. That was quite embarrassing, to be honest. I
Well,
brought my dad, so it was supposed to be a good gift. Turned out to not be such a great gift, but yeah.
Portugal had no interest in it being a good game. They kind of slopped it up, but cheers to them. They won it fair and square, despite
totally.
not winning a match for the first 5 matches in regulation.
No, that's true, but yeah, well deserved.
I saw them play Poland in Marseille, and it was a decent match actually. But the penalties were exciting. Big stadium down there in the Velodrome.
Yeah.
All right. So what's been going on? Have you been surviving on Draftkings in the early going? Are you playing on Fanduel? Are you playing Mondogoal? How are you spreading out your action these days?
Yeah, it's difficult. The good thing is, each website has its own kind of formats. Although now Fanduel introduced the late swaps, which is a big thing. But before, basically, it was fairly easy because you had the Mondogoal and Fanduel focusing on the Saturday slates, but from 12:45 or 12:30 now. And then at 3:00, you had the Draftkings, so it was fairly easy to.
You'd already be done. You already be done with the.
Yeah, and you can't let swap, so it's done, and you're just frustrated that your players somehow end up on the bench or are injured and you didn't know about it. But at least it was done and dusted, and then you could focus on Draftkings from 3:00. Now it's fairly different. Mondogoal still has no late swap, which I guess now is a good thing because it makes
They're
them
unique.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Fanduel late swap is a big thing. I'm not sure I'm a big fan of it, mostly because it basically put them head to head versus Draftkings, which basically as you know, the liquidity is mostly in Draftkings right now. So if you have to choose, it's very hard to choose Fanduel over Draftkings.
The liquidity is in Draftkings right now.
Yeah, gotcha. Definitely. Right. So I don't know. As I guess I will focus more and more on Draftkings and play a few small sites with no late swaps, basically, and so like Mondogoal and play on, and we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. What's your early take on Fanduel? Besides, I've heard the complaint that the prize pools went down sharply. I mean,
yep.
They've always been more conservative than DraftKings in terms of that. The way that DraftKings got their start in the States, there were two major competitors at the time, FanDuel and Draft Street, who DraftKings ultimately acquired. And DraftKings just started these huge contests with they knew they were going to overlay massively, and that got all players coming over to try it. Then they realized that their interface was actually really user friendly, and by the time the overlays dried up, they had a pretty good foothold on the marketplace. So that worked for them there. That's I don't know that we're going back through the history of FanDuel and DraftKings and trying to emulate what they've done. Obviously, there's been troubles, but that is what they did. That's how they spent their money, and that's how they survived to this day. They've also built a great product, and I think they have the best tech team of any DFS product out there. But I've heard. What are you seeing in terms of advertising out there?
It's still fairly limited. DraftKings is big on the NFL now. The NFL starts this weekend. For some reason, we see them quite a lot trying to promote the NFL in the UK. FanDuel has a few sponsorships like with Fantasy Football Scout and a couple of other small websites. I'm not sure the target is, I'm not sure it's the right targets, and as such, it's still very, very limited in terms of marketing, which means that basically it's very hard. I don't know, they took the decision to only offer football in the UK and not in the US, so we only have UK liquidity, which I really do not understand, because I looked at the product as well. It's fairly different from the US. They introduced late swaps, which is another feature which you guys don't have. I really don't really understand why they chose to go that way. But the marketing is limited, the liquidity is limited, so I guess they will find it very hard to compete with the likes of Draftkings, at least at the beginning. I don't know if they will change the strategy quickly. I don't know if a merger will happen with Draftkings that will change everything, but in the short term, I can't see Fanduel really cracking the UK markets. We'll see how it goes. It might. Again, they have a few sponsorships. They try a bit, but I'm not sure the focus is really on the UK football market, especially, as I say, like American football is starting now this weekend. So
right. How big the NFL? I feel like most Americans are somewhat oblivious to it, outside of the fact that we know that there's London games randomly, and they end up playing them at the same time fairly often. Sometimes it's a morning game. For us. I've heard though that the NFL draws a lot of bets. Is part of that just that it's Sunday and people have just been betting soccer, football all day Saturday, and then they want something to do on Sunday, or is the NFL legitimately popular?
Well, it's more and more popular. It's broadcasted on Sky, which is the biggest sports channel here. It normally at a time where there's not that much sport on TV, so basically it starts at 6 o'clock here,
right?
Which is basically the end of the Premier League. You have maybe one La Liga game, but that's pretty much it. And I think, as I said, the NFL tries to promote quite heavily the game in the UK. We have 3 games per annum, so I can't. I'd love to see the figures, to be honest, at least on Draftkings, to see how many UK players play the NFL, or even golf. I think it's quite popular compared to football here, because I always said I'm quite bullish on the US sports or the golf compared to football, because I think it makes. From a DFS point of view, it makes much more sense to start with golf, where there is no season long, or to start with the NFL, than with football, which has huge season long competition. But I'm not sure Draftkings will release the numbers. But again, I'd love to see. I'd love to see it.
It's also, I think it would be interesting because, not only do Americans have experience with the NFL as a league, they have more experience with DraftKings and daily fantasy. So you're obviously a sharp guy, and you're willing to sit and look through all the numbers and try to make sense of a bunch of names you've never heard of, and see how you can do. But I'd be curious to see how they perform, how UK players will match up. I don't think the learning curve is that high. I definitely would be happy to face as many UK players as possible, like in week 1, for instance. But I do think that that'll change fairly quickly if I find anybody, and I like the NFL. I prefer soccer. I might even prefer NBA and baseball, but the NFL is just an institution here, and on Sundays the whole country kind of like stops, and everybody's watching football and cheering the teams. Everybody has a fantasy football team, mostly season long, and now the daily fantasy stuff is happening, and it you breathe on the NFL on DraftKings, and you can have as much money down as you possibly want. So it makes things pretty intense. So we'll see. We'll have to see. I certainly encourage people to try it out. The U.S. love affair with the Premier League can be returned by a UK love affair with the NFL. But so that's starting this weekend. We'll see what happens. I've got a pretty chalky team. Pricing is kind of out of whack, but I think we've bored people enough with the NFL talk here. Let's start up with the game week 4. So the Manchester Derby is leading off. That's not going to be in any of the main slates. I don't have any particular tips. I have no idea what to expect from United fullbacks anymore. They had games where they had nearly 0 crosses, and then I think Valencia had 12 or 13 last game. So that strategy, that just might be a Mourinho thing where he's going to shift from game to game, and we're not going to know what's going to happen. It's certainly a little bit scary, and whoever replaces Aguero, but I don't know if that's a good spot either. It seems like the bookies like United in this. Is that where you're leaning?
Yeah, probably. I mean, I'm not sure I would target that game if it was included anyway, but if I had to choose, I would go with, as you said, maybe the fullback, especially Valencia. Looks pretty good. But in general, I don't think I would play anybody from this game. I agree. It's like.
Well, that's sometimes the strategy though would be to enter a bunch of those leagues and just leave that game out and let other people make mistakes and lock things up. If they pay for somebody like Ibrahimovic and he doesn't score, and then we find out Payet is starting and planning on playing 90 minutes, then that's going to be a huge edge to get. But I probably will just avoid that.
Yeah, I agree. All
right, so let's move on to Borough and Palace. Borough's had an incredible run of fixtures here at the beginning. They've had about as fortunate a trip to the Premier League as they could have hoped for. And then it's not ending. They're getting Palace this week. To me, and to the numbers I've looked at, I'm not completely impressed by them. But Palace have been much worse defensively. If I tell you the total in this game is 2, are you taking the over or under?
I would take the over, but not by much. If you tell me it's 2.2,
then you'll swing in and get that too, huh?
Yeah,
it probably is, but
I haven't looked exactly at the numbers, but I don't expect that many goals. It looks like if you want to play cash, there are at least 1 or 2 good options. Apart from that, it's very difficult to.
So I'm going to go out on a limb and guess that one of those 2 players you're discussing is Townsend.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. The only problem is the floor is quite high, but the ceiling seems to be quite low. I mean, Townsend last year was amazing for Newcastle, but the figures, like the stats, were kind of. I mean, you could see that basically he overperformed. He's not a massive goal scorer. What you can hope is an assist. For cash is not too bad. For GPP, I'm not sure I would pay 7.5 or 7.6. 7.6. When you have a few other options who can actually score. I wouldn't blame you if you play him for cash. I think actually a lot of people would play him.
Yeah, it's funny. I took a strong stance against him at White Hart Lane, and he still delivered 17 points, and he didn't score or assist in that match either. He opened with 23 points against West Brom. He took 6 shots in that game. He took 4 shots last game, 7 crosses. He's been very consistent, and the price is going up slowly. He's been producing I mean, he's been producing more along the lines of an Ericsson or somebody maybe even better than that, like where he should probably be in the 9,500, 10,000 range, and you're getting him for 7,600. I don't think Burrow is very good defensively. We'll see.
I guess the first 2 games he had a lot of tackles, which when you see like
5-4-2 is what I'm looking at.
Yeah, 5 and 4 seems a bit over exaggerated. Yeah. So if you go reverse back to like his 1 or 2, which was his average. I mean, 1.1 was last year, I think, his average. You start losing 3-4 points already. Yeah, he has a good floor of 12, 14 points. But again, his floor is kind of his ceiling, so that's the only issue with him. But I mean, it is a good option, definitely.
Yeah, it'll be interesting how this shakes out, because I know that with the international break, there's some risk, and then we'll get to those players, and that's where kind of the security of his 90 minutes in a match where I don't think is particularly difficult. I think I might take him. Punchin kind of blew up last week. I was surprised. I guess the matchup was good against Bournemouth, but I was still surprised at how many people were playing him against me in cash. And then obviously it worked out. He had 8 crosses, 4 tackles, and an assist at the end there. And he put up 19 points. He had 9 points the previous 2 weeks. I think maybe they were just kind of taking that and extrapolating that against an inferior opponent. Yeah. But his price didn't move even after that. And now Cabaye is definitely out. But now now we're talking about a second midfielder for Palace who can't really score and is away. So I just don't know if these are great spots for these guys.
Yeah, I mean, Cabaye injury is good or bad at the same time. I mean, for his floor is great because he will take like all the corners probably and the set pieces. On the other hand, he will play defensive midfield very probably with like a guy like Lee or whatever playing number 10. So last week or 2 weeks ago, he played further up. So his ceiling is much lower because I can't see him scoring. I think in terms of set pieces, Benteke will take any penalties from now on.
That's a good point.
So basically, I'm not sure I will go Townsend and him in cash because that's quite a lot of Crystal Palace. But
right, and as we discussed, I mean, he's got 10 tackles in 3 matches now too. So
yeah, and compared to Townsend, it's quite like he's a normal 2+ tackle guy. Yeah. So it's not like unusual for him.
Yeah.
So yeah, he has a good floor, probably less than Townsend because it depends on how many corners he will get effectively. He will get 2-3 tackles, he will get a couple of interceptions, and then all the corners. But that's pretty much what he will get. But again, at 5.7, it's not too bad.
And this is going to make you angry, but we need to discuss Gaston Ramirez, the Uruguayan international. Had an assist on the international break. That's a long trip back for this match. I still presume he will go. They let Adama go, who I liked. Ledbetter is still not going to be back for a few months. So it's between him and Downing for set pieces. Palace has conceded the most set piece attempts all season. They're at home. He's a little pricier than I think. 7,300 is a little steeper than I'd like to pay. I still think he's probably a very, very safe 10 points. He does take some shots. Would you assume Negredo is on pens, or do you think Ramirez takes those?
It's difficult. I think Ramirez might take them, but I don't think he's safe for 10 points at all.
Well, you just happen to get burned the one time he didn't get
twice. Twice out of 3. No,
very good ratio, but I don't know.
I played 10 teams this week, and I will have 0 Gaston Ramirez. So yeah.
So here's
and 0 Middlesbrough in general.
Here's a very fun small sample. So he had 18 points in the one home match against Stoke, and then he went away to 2 pretty poor teams in Sunderland and West Brom and had 4 in each of those matches. So you know that he's got the ability to get into the teens, but now we also know he can get 4. So I just, at his price, if he was 5,300, I think you'd probably take him. At 7,300, I think he's probably safe to pass on.
And I doubt he will play 90 minutes as well.
Yeah. Well, but Adaman's gone though, so I don't know if that's true.
Yeah, they have Fisher. They have
And here's another. Just quickly, we need to move on from this game. Valdez at 4,000 may start, and I just think that's a good price. Palace is fairly inefficient, and they're at home, and there's another 4,000 keeper we'll get to that may be playing, but that's something to keep back in your mind. So let's go to Turf Moor. I will move through this quickly. You like Snodgrass, 6,500. He's away. He had a huge match for Scotland. He had a hat trick and something like 45 points. We've got my favorite plays in this are probably Loughton and Robertson. Both the defensive flanks are weak where they're going to be trying to attack.
Yep.
They're both at 4,000, which isn't too bad for a defender. Then the one other player I want to discuss here. So Snodgrass, I definitely like. I don't think an away match at Burnley is very difficult. Andre Gray, I think at 7,800. Hull give up a lot of chances. I think he's going to be, properly motivated on his best behavior here. He's awaiting his appeal or the discussion he's trying to have. And he takes a lot of shots, and Hull's going to concede a lot of shots, and he's at home. So I think that's kind of a sneaky play. I don't see many people on him. I don't know if that's a cash play. I think probably not a cash play. But in GPP, I think people will move away from him, and that might be a direction I end up going. And then lastly, Hendrick may start. If he's on the wing for Burnley, I like him a lot at 3,500. If he's in the middle, I think you're probably just guessing. So depends on what else is out there. All right. I know you've got to go here fairly soon, so we'll speed it up a little bit. Arsenal and Southampton. Bookies love Arsenal here. Southampton has I think actually acquitted themselves fairly well, except in the score lines. They've managed 2 1-1 draws against pretty poor teams where they dominated the entire match and conceded. And then against United, they lost 2-0. But if Tadic's goal had been allowed, it would have been 1-1 and may have been a lot more interesting. So we've got Alexis coming back from international break, traveling much further than Ozil and Giroud. But I think we can expect all of them to be in the lineup. We will probably have Mustafi at the back. How willing are you to guess that Arsenal is going to score 3 here?
3. Well,
don't you think they certainly need at least one to justify playing more than one player, right?
Oh, yeah. I'm not sure I would play more than one player. I think Alexi probably is my best. This is the best shot, mostly because of the scarcity of the forward position. Özil didn't take the set pieces last week, 2 weeks ago, which is the big thing. I think he ended up with 13.75 points, including a goal, which is not really a stat you would expect from Özil. Right. So I guess it's a good fit, to be honest, for me. Cazorla takes the set pieces and penalties, but it's pretty much what he does. Yeah, exactly. So effectively,
you need to combine Cazorla and Ozil they are essentially whenever one of them is not playing. But splitting them up, that's my trouble with looking at Arsenal. Yeah, I do like Alexis, like you said, but you're paying 9,400 for a winger that doesn't have any set pieces.
No, that's correct. Yeah. I think people will make the mistake to play Ozil. It's quite cheap. thinking he's on all set pieces. I guess he might be at best on half of them.
Right, Jockey even takes some
exactly. Yeah. So I'm not even sure it would be on half of them, but
yeah,
it's very hard for me to roster more than. I mean, the fullbacks are always good if you hunt like for assists or something, but
they're priced
the
up.
floor is the floor is not that.
Those aren't. I mean, and then I mean, even like Walcott has been actually good for fantasy purposes. I don't think that he's actually been good for Arsenal necessarily, but you know, I have trouble believing that they're not going to get Lucas in there for at least 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Whether he plays for Giroud or Walcott, and then you've got, you've got Ox, who's actually looked pretty good. I mean, even if I think Arsenal can score on Southampton, I don't know where I'd go. I mean, maybe Alexis, but I think I'm comfortable just sitting this one out.
No, I agree. Iwobi is back as well, so the wingers.
There's too many.
It's gonna be
too many people. I mean, you know, there's only 3 subs, but I think that they're gonna make the 3 subs all through the midfield and maybe Giroud. So you're looking at 3 of those 4 guys not playing 90. I don't know. Doesn't really do it for me.
Yeah, no, I still like Alexi. I mean, I don't mind the travel. Right? Like in the past, he played 90 minutes after those big internationals. I think it won't be an easy game, so they will need 90 minutes of Alexi. So I probably will have Alexi in cash, but that's pretty much it. Yeah.
All right. And I assume Southampton's not going to have enough of the ball. You can, if you want to play the game where GPP plays that are low owned that could score, sure, Tadic or Redmond.
Yeah.
But that's not a game that I think is going to be very effective. Stoke is hosting the Spurs. They have Bonnie now in the middle, so that solves probably the most glaring hole across the Premier League. I think was the utter lack of a striker with a bunch of crossing midfielders like Shaqiri. I don't think he's going to play. Allen probably moves back to a deeper role. Well, Shaqiri may play.
I think he's out.
Seen both. I've seen both on that. Let me see. You're correct. So he's been ruled out.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
So they're not going to be able to do much against Spurs, I don't think. So Spurs are similar to Arsenal in the sense that they just have a wealth of attacking players, and it's hard to really know where the goals are going to come from. And they're all priced up. Even Jansen comes in. He's had a ton of chances, but he's already 7,400 without having actually done anything. So I guess in this match we're getting a couple injury. Well, one return from injury and one injury replacement are kind of the 2 standouts for cash. Lloris may go.
Yeah,
he's just 4,000. And then I believe Rose has been ruled out. Is that right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, pretty much. So
I don't love Ben Davis, but at 3,600 for a team that should have a lot of the ball and he likes to cross and does a little bit defensively.
Well, he doesn't like to cross that much. Actually, I was surprised. I looked at the stats and I think it was 2.2 per 90 minutes last year. Which is far less from the other 3. I mean, Trippier obviously was high up, but Rose, Walker have like 5 to 6 crosses.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So it's very. I mean, the sample is not massive, but it's not a huge crosser.
Yeah.
And Stoke is not that bad as defending crosses as well. So
yeah.
I'm not sure.
So who do you think? I mean, if Spurs are going to score, who do you think is going to break them down?
Well, I don't know how they will play. Probably Jansen will play up front, even if I'm not too sure. Kane has been terrible, still priced up. I I mean, it's very difficult. I mean, Lamela is still good because he has a high floor, but he comes back from Argentina. So would he play 90 minutes? Probably not. It's very difficult.
He didn't really play much. Well, he played the second match, I guess.
Yeah, but the travel, yeah.
Yeah, the travel's tough, but it's also 2016, and they traveled back a lot earlier. I mean, you look at, he probably came back Tuesday night for a Saturday match.
No, he came back today, no?
Did he?
Well, I guess he was playing yesterday.
No, he wasn't. He didn't play yesterday. I think they played Tuesday.
Yeah, Tuesday night, which is.
So then they played. They might take the overnight flight. Well, regardless.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, they better get used to it because they may not travel quite that far, but Champions League will be a similar setup for them this year. Sissoko's probably not going to start. He will probably come on for, who do you think, Ali?
Probably Lamela on the right, I would think. I would think 70 minutes of Lamela, 20 minutes of Sissoko on the right.
Yeah,
I mean, it's very difficult with the Spurs. I'm not sure it works very well to have Kane as number 10 anyway, but Janssen looks good. So what does it? I mean, Champions League is coming, as you say, next week. You will have to see the lineup. I don't think I'm a big fan of this game anyway, apart from Loris.
Yeah.
I doubt I will have anyone in cash, and even in GPP, they're all priced up. So, I mean, if you buy Kane because he would be almost 0% owned,
playing
you
the
still
10
need to
now?
score. Yeah, you pay 10. So even if he scores, you need him to score a hat trick.
No thanks.
So
his inability to take corners is now very well documented with Rooney calling him out. So, yeah, I mean, that's so funny. So we've basically we've hit two of the top three favorites on the slate, and are essentially passing on all the attackers just because they have too many of them. We'll see how that plays out. I mean, obviously in GPP, if you guess right, then those are going to work out. But playing the percentages, do I want Townsend or Cazorla or Lamela? Like, it's not a very difficult decision, and I still don't really think Townsend's a very good player, but he's good for our purposes. So
no, I agree. Out of the three, Townsend is a clear shot. Yeah.
All right. So West Ham has had a rough go in the early season. They are very clearly a different team without Payet. This should be a good chance to. I guess they've won one match at home already. They didn't do so hot in Europa qualifying, but. So we've got West Ham hosting Watford. Watford, they kind of came alive against Arsenal, but that's easy to say when you're down 3-0 at half. I'm more likely to just toss that entire half for both teams away. I don't really care what happened there. So West Ham, we've got Adrian. Is it 5,400? The fullbacks have been decent. Masuaku, but he immediately went to 5,100.
Yeah, which is a shame.
It's just frustrating, is we didn't even get to know the guy, Antonio has been finally removed from his defensive duties, thankfully. But he's 7,600, which is, on the back of 2 goals. That's tough. And then, looks like, our only real decision is on Payet. He's 9,400.
Yeah.
I think that at this point, they got him through the international break, and as they, I guess, kind of promised they would, and now they need him. I mean, do you expect him? What would you set his over under for minutes?
It depends on the game. If the game remains tight, which I think it should be, he should play 80 plus minutes. I mean, there's no reason. He looked comfortable when he was playing for France. He played 45 minutes and 35 minutes, but mostly because, they introduced a new system and etc. But he couldn't
score on Belarus, so
yeah, but nobody could. It looked okay. I mean, mostly against Italy, he looked very good. The 45 minutes he played. There's no reason to believe if he can play 45 minutes against Italy like a week ago, he can't play 80 minutes against Watford. So now if they are 4-0 up after 60 minutes, yeah, you might have a risk, but
if they're 4-0 up, I'm gonna be willing to bet that he's already done his
probably
part.
yeah. So, but who is safe for 90 minutes in this slate? Like Alexi, Coutinho, etc. come back from international. I mean, so it's very hard to.
I think at home with the struggles they've had already, I think that if he starts, which he should, that I can't even imagine the booze if he came off at 60 minutes in a close game. So I think we're either getting close to 90 out of him, or
80, let's say,
he's scoring a goal and 2 assists and coming off to a nice round of applause. So I think he's going to be in a lot of lineups for cash, and hopefully some people are doubting his stamina and fitness, but I think I'm playing him.
It's difficult. I mean, that's basically the question you have to solve is like, do you play Payet or not? That's the main thing, and that drives the whole lineup construction of
well, and they also moved him to midfield only. It's been interesting how they've been doing that, putting the eligibility at midfield and forward. It seems like they're now trying to influence Ross lineup construction a little bit more. By giving it and taking it away based on players like Townsend had, midfield and forward for a week, and I think he was 80% owned or something. So they took it away, which was good, because then, I think it was good that they answered the question, the problem of being forced into 2 strikers with very few that had decent floors. And then they kind of overcorrected it, and now they're starting to figure it out here. So, so if you use Payet, then you're kind of searching for forwards a little bit, but that's a risk I'm probably willing to take.
So you probably have to roster either Payet or Alexi.
Right, and whose floor do you think is higher?
Oh, the floor is Payet.
By a lot. But the upside maybe Alexis, because he can score 2 goals. And all right. What about Watford? Anything of note there?
No, I haven't been impressed. I think the new system, the 3-5-2, looks a bit weird. Dini, Gallo clearly do not like this system. I'm not sure about Pereira. He scored last time, but
I think he'll start. He's not a good fantasy player, and he's already beyond any price I would consider him at. It seems like they're being very quick with international. Well, players are moving into the Premier League to jump their prices up, or even start their prices a little high, which is frustrating. It's 6,700. He didn't play a lot for Juve, but he also didn't score goals for them, and doesn't really provide much in peripheral. So we'll see if his price comes crashing down to 4,500. We'll start looking at him again. But Dini and Igalo are not playable. What about Janmat if he's out on the wing at 4,900?
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, it's expensive though. You won't get a clean sheet out of him. You need a lot of peripherals to pay up for 4.9 with close to 0% chance of a clean sheet. So I don't know. I don't think I would play him though.
Yeah. Well, he didn't have a clean sheet for the Netherlands and had 11 crosses. 14 points. So I don't know. I think I think he actually has a higher floor than a lot of the defenders I'm looking at, especially if he's playing there. I don't think West Ham has the ability to really dominate possession. And I think that Watford will, they have no creativity, and they're going to be stuck crossing. So, maybe that makes him a GPP play. If you don't want to spend that much at defender, but if you have 4,900, I'm not sure that he's the worst play, just because really all he can do is cross.
Yeah, I agree. It's a shame the crosses are like not 1 point anymore, right? But
yeah,
still, yeah. No, I agree. He has a pretty good floor. Could do worse than that, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of no man's land, I think, in that range. So, I wouldn't want to drop down to Bellerin. I wouldn't want to play Cedric. Maybe Adam Smith, I guess, for Bournemouth. But
yeah, if he plays, is probably a good play.
Yeah, who do you think might play over him? Well, that match is next. So let's move straight to Bournemouth West Brom.
Yeah.
This could be a pretty ugly match based on how these teams have played thus far. Bournemouth has no creativity. Now they have Jack Wilshere. Do they still have no creativity?
I don't. It clearly it's an improvement. For the fullback, they have Flanagan back, so he might play. I'm not too sure how they will set up. Wilshere will play either. He's probably gonna play number 10, no? Which means King might end up on the bench. It's difficult. You have to see the lineup. I mean, clearly, if you have to pick up one guy from this team, I would say Wilshere is quite ahead of everyone. GPP wise, you could hope for a goal from a striker. Like King has been good. 6.4 is quite cheap. Wilson was good last year. He's been terrible this year, but surely has to pick up. The winger are totally overrated. I mean, Ibe and Fraser I don't know. I really don't know what they're doing in the Premier League. I mean, they're clearly not Premier League players.
Yeah, I was cautiously optimistic with Ibe because he, in a couple.
Oh God, no.
Well, a couple starts he had for Liverpool looked like at least he could be a Townsend type player where he wasn't actually good but got fantasy points, and he can't even do that, and then he can't even stay on the pitch because he's so bad. Being that I must mention that hey buddy, that Emerson Heineman, the American, is back fit, and we'll see. We'll see if he starts. He's a bright young player. We'll see if he gets some time. If anything, he might just cut into Ibe's time, which I think would be a good thing. Yeah, for me, for Bournemouth, I like Wilshere. Just because I think the price is right. If he could come in and take a. I mean, there's nobody else effectively taking their set pieces as it is. So I think.
Well, Stanislas might be back. He was very good last year, but.
Does Bournemouth even really like him?
Surprisingly not. But it's clearly better than Fraser and Ibe. So I mean, Richie is not there anymore. Basically, last year he had Richie as competition, so it was quite difficult for him. I don't know. I don't know how they will line up. I mean, clearly he will play in my team in Bonn. I mean, he's clearly better than any of the wingers.
Yeah. So, Daniels is probably as good a play as Wilshere. Plus, he has a clean sheet benefit. Because I don't think you're going to need. You might need a discount for Wilshere's spot, depending on how you're shaking things out. I don't know if you'd want to spend as much on Daniels. He's been very quiet so far this year as well, but he'll still be on penalties. And you have to expect Bournemouth is going to have the ball most of this match, and I think I saw that he had a 3-1 goal scoring prop. So I mean, that's for a defender. That's kind of crazy.
Yeah, I'd like to see the referee. Probably the referees.
Think they hand out a lot of reds?
No penalties. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point.
If it's the case, then all of a sudden is a good play for sure.
Certainly, he becomes an amazing GPP play, kind of probably either way.
Wilson took the penalties when they were in the championship 2 years ago, so I'm not sure Daniels will take them anymore.
Did Daniels only take him when Wilson was already hurt?
Wilson played like 5 games last year. So
how much can you learn? But Daniel's also, to my memory, has not really missed. So I don't know how you pull a guy off who's not missing.
Well, clearly you have to give Wilson a bit of confidence. I mean, he's not been the player. He's like he has to score 1 or 2 goals to get it back. But I don't know. I mean, I'm not Eddie Howe, but I wouldn't bet 100% that Daniels is on penalties. I agree he's over 50%, but he's not guaranteed.
Yeah, that would certainly be a huge disappointment if you take Daniels, you then get a pen and then watch Wilson walk up. That's always so frustrating. It's such a silly game we play. You know, who was it?
That was Baines for me last time. I faded Baines because I thought Lukaku would be on penalty. Then I had Miralas, and obviously Baines took it.
Yeah.
Having said that, most of the guys I choose who takes penalty miss them.
Oh yeah, I've had a rough go of it lately as well.
Yeah, so
it's always fun. It's always fun, you know, at the end of the day, no matter how you did, to then say, okay, well, if I didn't have this 15-point swing, usually shifts your results quite a bit. So West Brom. Phillips is actually kind of came alive last match. They've got, you know, it's difficult with him and Gardner there.
And McLean.
And McLean.
And
definitely doesn't like McLean. That's been made fairly clear.
Well, he started last game, yeah.
Yeah, but he gets subbed off early, and maybe he just plays hard enough that Poulos, you know, doesn't think he can go 90, which may be the case. And now we're introducing another midfielder to the mix with Chadley. He's already priced at 5,400. He won't be on set pieces. You know, he had a knack for scoring for Spurs when he would come on, but you know, I don't think this is necessarily the match. Bournemouth isn't a good defense, but do you know, if they start Chadley, do you look at him?
I might be tempted, not in cash, but I might be tempted if I want to punt forward because it's forward eligible.
No, he's not.
I think he is.
He is.
Yeah.
Good point.
No, if he was not forward eligible, I would fade completely.
Right.
If you want to punt forward, because I mean, that's why I said with Alexi, you might want to pay for him because there's basically no option.
Otherwise, right.
So another option is to completely punt the position, play Chadley and hope he scores. If he doesn't score, it doesn't kill you really at 5.4. Assuming a lot of strikers will deliver 2-3 points anyway as well. So that's the only way. It sounds
like rather than play Chadley, you should be trying to withdraw from as many of your contests as possible.
Yeah,
if that's the situation you end up in, I would rather take probably Amrabat from Watford if he's going to start at 4,100.
But it's either Amrabat or Yanmat, so I don't think Amrabat. I agree. If Amrabat, plays,
he may be basically done.
And Chadley won't get the red card probably.
Yeah, he's not playing 90. We don't really need to discuss him. Even if he starts, he'll burn you because he'll come off at half for Phillips or something. Scanning through this, you're right. This is pretty ugly. Zaha wouldn't be terrible at 6,200. It wouldn't be good. Wouldn't be good either.
Yeah, it's not too bad, but he never scores. So
yeah,
he's okay if you want 6-7 points.
Yeah, my Andre Gray is looking nicer the more I dig into these forwards. But I don't know. I think you play Mane and then maybe Alexis or Lamella. Yeah, it's not pretty.
Yeah,
or maybe you just take Walcott if he starts. But all right, so last match, I think Liverpool has the highest scoring projection. We've got Leicester. Our champions. I know you like Liverpool quite a bit this season.
Yep.
What about this match?
I still like Liverpool. It's they have the potential. They're pretty much the only team with the potential to score 3-4 goals in these slates, even if it's Leicester. I don't think Leicester is a bad team at all. It's very, I mean, defensively very hard to score, but
Schmeichel is playing at 4,100.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, he is, and it would be a great play if Loris was not priced.
Right.
So, but I think Liverpool. The good thing with Liverpool is that they don't play with a striker, which means you have guys like Mane, even Firmino, who are forward eligible with a bit of floor. Not too high, but still. So yeah, I don't mind Liverpool at all. Mane, Firmino, Coutinho, even Lallana, more GPP, but yeah, they're all in play in my opinion.
I don't know that when it's said and done that it'll make sense.
Yeah, you will regret it when you see Townsend scoring, and yeah.
Well, no. So no, actually, I'm not. Sorry, I was going to a different thought, and that is James Milner.
Okay.
I wish. I mean, if he was a defender, he'd probably be 8,000, which would be very difficult to stomach. But I mean, he's on penalties.
Yep. On corners.
Leicester, they still concede crosses at a pretty high rate, and we're expecting Liverpool to have a lot of the ball. He's going to take some corners. He's getting tackles here and there, partially because he's out of position. I mean, is 7,000 just too steep for him for you?
It's very hard to pay 7 for a midfielder who plays left back. Yeah, but I think he's a good player. I probably won't play him, and it's likely to be a mistake. You can't fully rely on penalties, though. I mean,
no. But he's got assist upside as well, and
yeah. But if you have 7,
I think he's got like, we can't focus on crosses quite as much as we used to, but we can focus on guys that can get in the neighborhood of 12 to 15 crosses in a single match. And I mean, he had 11 against Burnley. He only had 5 against Tottenham, but those are 2 away matches.
Well, the Burnley game was quite special. I mean, they had 83% possession. They had to attack from. So I wouldn't expect.
They were losing. That's fair. That's fair.
Even if they have 60-65% possession, it's still probably like 6-7 crosses. But then if he doesn't do anything else, like if you pay up 500 more for Coutinho, I wouldn't argue that Coutinho is worse than Milner.
Without looking, who do you think has a higher goal scoring prop? I'm gonna look, but
assuming like Sturridge and Origi do not play, then it would be Coutinho.
Yeah, I guess it would probably shift. Yeah, Milner's down. Milner's down at 4-1. See, that's actually not a terrible price, but
yeah, I wouldn't bet 4. Basically, you bet on a penalty. I mean,
yeah.
And yeah.
All right. Yeah, I mean, I guess he's I don't know. It's an interesting week. There's options. I don't think that. I guess Payet could end up being chalk, but like you said, that it's going to start messing with lineup construction a little bit if you pay up for him and other midfielders, and then are searching at forward, because forward options aren't great. So, all right, Nick, I have taken up enough of your time. I know you need to get to bed. Thanks for coming on. Welcome to the new season. Looking forward to chatting more often, and good luck to you this weekend.
Yeah, thanks, Tom.
All right. This is Fantasy Football Backers signing off.